Listen, and welcome to A Link to the Filmcast. I'm your host, David Reese, in the show where we adventure across the realms of Hyrule and the silver screen. And today we're going to be looking at Madame Web. But first, let's jump into our random Zelda wiki article. This week's article is Octavo. If you've ever played Cadence of Hyrule, the spin-off rhythm game inspired by Crypt of the Necromancer, he is the antagonist of the game. He is the musical themed maestro who creates havoc across Hyrule. It's been a while since I played. I played it when it first came out, and I haven't played it since. But I do like the remixes, the soundtrack for Cadence of Hyrule. That was pretty good. I couldn't get the timing done well. My inherent sense of rhythm isn't up to par with what the game was looking for, but luckily they have an accessibility feature where you can kind of go off the rhythm and do it at your own pace if the built-in mechanic was a bit much for you, like it was for me. It was a great game. Would recommend it. It's not a mainline Zelda game. Not canon information, obviously, since it's a spin-off, but it was a fun game and well worth my time with it. Hope everyone's doing well. I think this is my first episode since the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. This might be my second. And at this point, we only have 2 Switch exclusive games. We have the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and we have Mario Kart World. I got to play Mario Kart World. I don't have a Switch 2, but I have a relative that does. And it was fun. It was a lot of Mario Kart. It was a lot of the same. I didn't see too much improvement on the formula, but I only played a few races. So I guess if I played it more, I would get more tuned into the subtleties of it. People are loving the high-res Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. 4K 60 FPS is out. With the Nintendo Online, the diaries, the Princess Zelda diary entries, which are getting some reviews or getting some information out there. The marketing's kind of already hyped up. They already are dialed down the Mario Kart World promotions, and they've gone full-blown Donkey Kong Bonanza, showing off little Pauline. So we'll see. We'll see what comes with that. But let's jump into today's movie, Madame Web. And this is one I hadn't seen until watching this for the podcast. The press cycle, I do remember it was a post-COVID movie launch, and the press wasn't favorable towards it, calling it another Sony Marvel atrocity. I didn't know anything about the character except that she was an empath or had the ability to sense things, and that she was a EMS first responder. EMT. And other than that, I didn't really know anything. Movie summary, courtesy of Rotten Tomatoes. Forced to confront revelations about her past, paramedic Cassandra Webb forges a relationship with 3 young women destined for powerful futures, if they can all survive a deadly present. And I guess that covers what the movie's about, but is very vague, and I guess the movie itself is a little vague and lackluster. Off the bat, I didn't enjoy this one, just like Morbius. This is part of our film series covering the productions of Avi Arad, who's a producer attached to the upcoming Zelda movie. So that's why we're looking at these Sony Marvel movies. We only have 2 left that we're going to cover as a series, and then we'll try a different movie series or different movie theme. If you have any suggestions, any movies you want to cover, feel free to write in. Going for the action adventure genre. I'm a little part. I also like sci-fi, but I want to keep it to stuff relevant to what we could do with a Zelda movie connection or tie-in for now. But fantasy is always good. I have Lord of the Rings as a big to-do down the road. I don't want to get special guests for those ones. But let's continue talking about Madam Web. Dakota Johnson, I didn't know who she was. Apparently, she's the 50 Shades of Grey girl. Never saw it, and I am fine not seeing it. The movie starts in the Amazon, and we're not doing the beat for beat. But they're doing some connections, like Madam Web is in the Amazon looking for the special spider. And the movie we just covered, Morbius, shows Dr. Morbius in the Amazon looking for a special vampire bat. So was there a period at Marvel where a lot of their superpowers or superheroes were getting abilities from random animals from the depths of the Amazon? Which you can see why they would go that direction, because the Amazon is so large and hasn't been fully explored and encompassed. That's one of the things about the modern era, having GPS and satellite and being part of the 21st century, is that everything's mapped. There's no exploring new worlds like hundreds of years ago. There's maps for everywhere, and the parts that are unexplored are the parts that are super hard to get to, like the depths of the ocean, the depths of the jungle. Places are hard to get to. So I guess that makes sense from like a storytelling perspective. If you want it to set place in modern time, you can't say it came from somewhere to the west of St. Louis, because we've had over a century to map out the west of the Mississippi, and we know what's beyond there. We got California, and all the states aren't exploring new land at this point. So that's my thought on the Amazon tie-in. I don't hate it. I think it's working with storytelling devices that they want to do. And I prefer that than, oh, something magical came from outer space. But that works too, depending on the character, how convincing the character is and how likable they are, and what your theme is for that particular hero. So the movie takes place in 2003, which is around the same time as the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. Which, if you're trying to find any continuity between this and Spider-Man, they're trying, but it just doesn't work. They're suggesting the whole, we have her partner's Uncle Ben before he's married to Aunt May, and we see Ben's sister Mary is pregnant with presumably Peter Parker. But in 2003, it would be the Tom Holland Peter Parker, not the Tobey Maguire. There's some lines about with great responsibility, or they reworded the Uncle Ben line. I don't like how they reworded the Uncle Ben line. Uncle Ben doesn't say it in this movie. Madam Web does. It's, instead of with great power comes great responsibility, Madam Web says, when you take responsibility, you will gain powerful abilities. Which is just swapping the order of events, saying that if you take on responsibility, you'll get abilities, rather than the other way around, which isn't how superheroes typically work. Lots of product placement in this movie. If you're actually watching and paying attention, I first noticed it when they were eating Chinese food, that Adam Scott, the actor playing Uncle Ben, had a Mountain Dew. But then throughout the rest of the movie, you see other Pepsi products, and even the big fight scene at the end with Ezekiel is on a big Pepsi Cola sign. Pretty obvious that this movie is sponsored by Pepsi. The whole plot line with the three girls, I know they're not going to do anything with it. They were trying to set up future movies, but I get the motivation of Ezekiel trying to go after his assassins before they even get their powers. I just wish we knew more about Ezekiel other than I'm big bad or I'm evil and I have spider powers in a world that's already going to get like a Spider-Man. I guess he's in the shadows, so he's not really forward facing like Spider-Man is in front of the cameras. What's his motivation? Like, what does he do other than just menace people, menace these three teenagers? We kind of see him at a fancy party and brings a CIA agent back, and he's got one person on staff that just has access to all the cameras and across the city. But this is 2003, so technology is not even that far. I mean, there's cameras and stuff, but the ability to access them so quick and the computers she had would not have been existent in 2003. Here I am just thinking about it again. The acting, I don't know what it is about Dakota Johnson, but she seemed to be doing fine in scenes with other people, but when it was just her talking to herself or trying to connect the dots and she just had the scene alone, like when it's just her in her apartment with her cat, it's kind of cringy seeing the way she talks out loud, and that might just be lack of experience solo acting or just poorly written dialogue that she had to perform. Either way, it did not come off as well. And then she does the whole Peru trip, and the rest of the movie is just an elaborate chase for Ezekiel and our squad, and then a setup for a franchise that's never going to happen. You would think they would know at this point that these Sony movies aren't going to gain traction and create bigger franchises like they were hoping, but they still went ahead. They tried setting them up. Apparently Madam Web actually is blind in the comics, so that's why they made that ending. At first I was very disappointed, but when I saw it was part of the source material, I kind of cut it some slack because they're trying to match the comics. Apparently in the comics, Madam Web helps the three Spider Women across their adventures with her foresight ability, kind of like a Dr. X position, especially since she does this weird, what do you call it, when she's able to like ghost herself and be multiple places at once, like when she was saving the three girls. That seemed odd. Yeah, obviously from my talk, you can tell I wasn't a big fan of the movie, and the internet and the general public didn't like this movie either. And I'm kind of excited to get out of this slump I put myself in of watching these Sony Marvel movies. Got a crisp 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, 53% on the popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes, 1.5 stars on Letterboxd, 4.1 out of 10 on IMDb. So just abysmal reviews all around. Comments ranging anywhere from just lackluster, unfinished scenes to this movie feels like a generic AI slop together hero film. Movie budget was around 100 mil. Box office was around 100 mil. When you put in additional costs like distribution, marketing, this movie's losing the company money. So overall, this was not a great film for Sony and Marvel, and I don't expect them to touch on this anytime in the future. It had potential. Had the writing, acting, storyline been more complete. I think this movie is kind of half-baked. I think if they would have restructured it and had more pure criticism, pure critiques, then we would be able to maybe have a better experience with it. There's even points I noted with Ezekiel where the lip sync wasn't in match with what he was saying. So obviously they did some post production trickery, changing his dialogue after the shooting, to make whatever connections. Obviously, we're trying to do some tie-ins with 2003 Spider-Man. Some mentions on IMDb mentioned that they were going to lean more heavily into that. And we're just going to leave it right there. Send your questions to ZeldaFilmcast@gmail.com or use the message link in the show description. They can be about Zelda, movies, life, or whatever you want. And that's going to be it for this episode. If you like what you've heard, tell a friend and leave us a review. If you have any movie suggestions or feedback, I'd love to hear them. Next time we'll be watching Venom, The Last Dance. Thanks for listening, and as always, may the Triforce be with you.